This is an image captured at the moment when one of the two individuals involved in a shocking case appeared before reporters. It can be seen that she did not lift her face to face reality. The victim belonged to the third generation of one of the wealthiest families in Japan. Notably, the identities of the two suspects in this case surprised many due to their special relationship with the deceased. Furthermore, through the investigation process, the police discovered that the suspect might also be connected to 3 other cases in the past. In addition, everyone was stunned upon learning the contents of an audio recording collected and released by the police. However, what was even more shocking was that to this day, the perpetrator of this horrifying case has not yet been convicted. In the end, what really happened, and why did the details revealed during the investigation send chills down so many people's spines? Don't take your eyes off the screen, because we are about to reveal all the details of the case right now. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest videos. At around 9 o'clock in the morning on the 13th of March, the Tokyo police received an emergency call from a man named Kenichi Hosoya. He reported that his daughter, Yoshiki, was lying motionless. Upon receiving the information, the police immediately rushed to the scene. Medical personnel were also present to provide necessary support. Arriving at Kenichi's residence, located in a 10-story building, the police and medical staff found Yoshiki lying on the floor. After checking, they found no signs of life and quickly transported her to the hospital for emergency treatment. The hospital was close to their home, so Kenichi and his wife hoped that their daughter could be saved. However, shortly after emergency efforts, the doctors had to announce that Yoshiki had passed away. At that moment, the police, along with Kenichi and his wife, were all in the hospital. Notably, the man's reaction took the police by surprise. The reason was that upon hearing of his daughter's passing, Kenichi remained cold and showed no signs of sadness. He also did not immediately contact his relatives to inform them of the situation. Because of this, the police approached Kenichi and asked him some questions. As expected, the man calmly answered each question during the initial investigation. In front of the police, Kenichi stated that he and his wife had 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters. On the day of the incident, their eldest son and second daughter were at a friend's house, so only he, his wife, and their youngest daughter, Yoshiki, were at home. According to Kenichi's account, at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 13th, Yoshiki woke up and began feeling unwell. She skipped breakfast and kept complaining of stomach pain. Initially, Kenichi and his wife did not pay much attention to the issue, thinking that their daughter was just groggy from sleep. Unexpectedly, shortly after, Yoshiki mentioned having a headache, then suddenly collapsed and began gasping for breath. Seeing this, Kenichi and his wife hurriedly searched the house for medicine. During this time, their daughter gradually lost consciousness. Only when they realized the severity of the situation did the husband finally call the police. After hearing Kenichi's statements, the police became even more suspicious of him. The reason was that the apartment where his family lived was located in a central area, very close to medical facilities, with an extremely convenient transportation system. Therefore, under normal circumstances, when parents see their child unwell, their first reaction would be to take them to the hospital immediately. However, instead of doing so, Kenichi and his wife wandered around the house looking for medicine, despite not knowing the cause of their daughter's sudden symptoms. Moreover, when both Kenichi and his wife realized that their daughter was gradually losing consciousness, they called the police instead of dialing emergency medical services. Such actions from parents made the police deeply question the situation. Regarding this, Kenichi explained to the police that everyone reacts differently when faced with sudden and urgent situations. At that moment, both he and his wife were so panicked that their minds went completely blank, not knowing what to do. Kenichi asserted that in an emergency situation, he and his wife instinctively thought of seeking help from the police first, which is why they called them instead of an ambulance. However, Kenichi's explanation failed to dispel the police's suspicions about him and his wife. As a result, they began investigating the background and relationships of the family members, leading to some unexpected discoveries. Kenichi's family was a well-known wealthy family in the local area. His father started a business in 1979, running a large enterprise in Asakusa. As the business flourished, Kenichi's father expanded his operations. He built a hotel and a 10-story building in Tokyo. Being part of the second generation of one of Japan's wealthiest families, Kenichi attracted the attention of many women. However, he only had eyes for Shiho after a chance encounter with her at a store. Sometime later, Shiho and Kenichi happened to meet again on the roadside. At that moment, they felt it was fate, so they decided to start dating and eventually live together. Although Kenichi's father usually did not interfere with his decisions, he strongly opposed his son's marriage upon learning that Shiho came from an ordinary family. However, Kenichi disregarded his father's words and left home with Shiho, moving to Chiba Prefecture. In 2009, they registered their marriage, and in 2013, they had a son. Seeing that things had gone too far, Kenichi's father had no choice but to allow his son to move back with his wife and child to the 10-story building in Tokyo in 2016. After years of living together, Kenichi and Shiho had 3 children, with Yoshiki being the youngest daughter. However, police investigations revealed that their marriage was not harmonious. Since their marriage, Kenichi and Shiho frequently argued, whether in Chiba or Tokyo. According to neighbors, Shiho was dominant in the relationship and had even shouted that she wanted her husband to disappear. Shiho did not do housework, and Kenichi was often the one taking care of the children. Whenever neighbors asked, he would say that his wife was not good at looking after them. An acquaintance revealed that after Kenichi's family moved back to Tokyo, his father still did not approve of Shiho and hoped that his son would divorce her soon. However, what surprised the police even more was that, during their investigation, they discovered that many people had suspected Yoshiki was affected by her parents' actions. Some neighbors reported seeing Yoshiki wearing the same clothes for several days and looking exhausted. At times, they even noticed bruises on her arms. In contrast, Yoshiki's older brother and sister were always well-dressed and appeared to be pampered by Kenichi and Shiho. Notably, Kenichi and Shiho once told a friend that their 2 older children were intelligent, but the youngest was not. They even mentioned that their youngest child was not cute. In March 2019, Shiho was arrested by the police for setting fire to the balcony of their home. She claimed that she did it out of anger, after arguing with her husband over trivial matters. At the time of the investigation, the couple's 3 children were temporarily placed under the care of a local child consultation center. Shiho called her father and asked him to become their legal guardian. 6 months later, the children were returned to their family, but Kenichi and Shiho's attitude remained unchanged. Whenever the couple argued, they would take out their anger on Yoshiki. In September 2022, the school Yoshiki attended requested assistance from the Child Consultation Center after noticing unusual marks on her body. Kenichi and Shiho were once again warned. After that, Kenichi and Shiho frequently changed Yoshiki's school. In total, she was transferred to 6 different kindergartens. Based on teachers' statements, the police learned that Yoshiki showed signs of emotional instability and often suffered from sleep deprivation. For this reason, the Child Consultation Center repeatedly engaged with Kenichi and Shiho, conducting individual counseling sessions. Investigators suspected that there was something suspicious about Yoshiki's death, so they made a proposal. However, once again, Kenichi and Shiho's reactions only deepened their doubts. To uncover the truth, authorities intended to transfer Yoshiki's body to forensic doctors for a more detailed examination and testing. However, they did not expect that when they mentioned this to Kenichi, he reacted with displeasure and criticized the police. Kenichi claimed that the investigators were unable to distinguish right from wrong and were making baseless assumptions. He wanted to conduct the funeral quietly and requested that the police stop interfering in his family's matters. Due to Kenichi's unusual attitude, the authorities contacted Shiho. However, they were shocked to find that she also strongly opposed the police's suggestion. Although investigators suspected foul play in Yoshiki's sudden passing, they could not proceed with a forensic examination without the legal guardian's consent. However, at that moment, the doctor responsible for Yoshiki's emergency treatment informed the police of something very unusual. He stated that when Yoshiki was brought to the hospital, she had already shown no signs of life. Based on decades of medical experience, the doctor determined that Yoshiki had passed away approximately 3 hours before arriving at the hospital. Upon receiving this crucial information, the police became convinced that Kenichi and Shiho were somehow involved in the case. Kenichi had called the police at 9 o'clock in the morning, but the doctor estimated that Yoshiki had died around 6 o'clock. This discrepancy raised serious contradictions in Kenichi's statements, as he had told the police that Yoshiki woke up at 8 o'clock and only then started feeling unwell. The police suspected that Kenichi and Shiho were acting strangely, as if they were deliberately hiding something. Due to the numerous suspicious elements in the case, the police refused to hand over Yoshiki's body to the family and proceeded with the forensic examination. The autopsy results revealed the presence of a chemical compound in the victim's body. Upon further analysis, this chemical was identified as a colorless, odorless substance that could be mixed with water to create antifreeze for car cooling systems. Exposure to large amounts of this substance could negatively affect health. Additionally, the forensic doctor discovered traces of a compound in the victim's body that is commonly used in medical treatments. This was a specialized drug that could only be dispensed with a doctor's prescription. There was a bluish bruise on Yoshiki's back, which had formed due to prolonged contact with the floor. Based on this, the forensic doctor confirmed that the time of death was around 6 o'clock in the morning on the 13th of March. With this information from forensic experts, the police concluded that Kenichi had lied about the time. Yoshiki lost consciousness. They conducted a search of the apartment and finally found a crucial clue. Upon entering Kenichi and Shiho's apartment, the police were taken aback. Despite its luxurious appearance, the home was in complete disarray, with items scattered everywhere and a strong, unpleasant odor lingering in the air. During their search, the police discovered several small bottles in the kitchen refrigerator containing antifreeze solution. However, they did not find the prescription medication used in medical treatment. When questioned, Kenichi claimed he had no idea what was inside the small bottles or how they ended up in the family's refrigerator. Kenichi stated that his wife managed everything in the household, while he was always busy with work, so he never paid attention to such matters. He suggested that perhaps his daughter had accidentally opened the refrigerator and mistaken the small bottles for drinking water. As for Shiho, when confronted with the police's questions, she remained silent. This only heightened their suspicions about the couple. The family's refrigerator was divided into two sections, the upper compartment for storing food and the lower compartment as a freezer. Yoshiki's height was only enough to reach the freezer compartment of the refrigerator, while the small bottles were placed in the upper section, where food was stored. Clearly, Yoshiki was not tall enough to reach them. Furthermore, why was a liquid commonly used in automobiles found inside the refrigerator? The police believed this was a sign that someone had planned everything meticulously. However, no matter how much the police questioned them, Kenichi and Shiho refused to provide clear answers. In reality, the evidence collected so far was still insufficient to prove that the couple was responsible for the crime. After the forensic procedures were completed, Yoshiki's body was returned to the family for burial. However, the police still considered Kenichi and Shiho the primary suspects and were determined to find solid evidence. Through an extended investigation, the police discovered that Kenichi had inherited substantial assets from his parents, including the 10-story building where he and his family lived. In addition to high-value properties, Kenichi also owned a hotel in Asakusa. This was a well-known hotel located in a bustling commercial district, with a view of the Tokyo Skytree from its windows. As a child, Kenichi was given special attention and was treated more favorably than his older sisters. His parents hoped that in the future, their youngest son would become successful and inherit the family business. However, after graduating from university, Kenichi did not want to take over the family assets. Instead, he wanted to start his own company. Once he had an idea, he immediately established a studio, launching a business by uploading short videos on online platforms. Despite financial support from his parents, Kenichi lacked management experience and was forced to shut down his studio after just 6 months of operation. After his failed business venture, Kenichi returned home and took over the family company. His parents arranged a comfortable position for him, where he barely needed to do more than a few tasks each day. However, the affluent and leisurely lifestyle gradually eroded Kenichi's entrepreneurial spirit and original ambitions. He began frequenting entertainment venues and often had conflicts with his parents. What made the investigators even more unsettled was that they noticed striking similarities between Yoshiki's case and what had happened to Kenichi's older sister. On the 29th of April, 2018, Kenichi's sister, Minako, also collapsed at home and later passed away. Notably, traces of antifreeze solution were found in her case as well. According to the investigation at the time, Minako had always been in good health, but just days before her death, she frequently suffered from headaches and fever. One day, she suddenly collapsed at her room's doorstep and died. At the time, since there were no clear external injuries and no medical history of illness, the initial cause of death was determined to be sepsis. However, according to an investigator who had worked on Minako's case, the forensic examination was not conducted thoroughly. In fact, the victim's family wanted to conclude the case quickly to protect their reputation. When the police contacted a former employee of Kenichi's family company, the person revealed that Kenichi and Shiho often argued with Minako over control of the business. Minako was an accountant and held financial authority over the company. She was dissatisfied with Kenichi's poor management and believed that he would hinder the company's growth. As a result, she consistently restricted his spending. At that time, Minako lived in the same building as her brother's family. Their conflicts were well known, leading some to suspect that Kenichi might have been involved in what happened to his sister. More strikingly, investigators discovered that 2 months after Minako's death, Kenichi's father also passed away due to sepsis. Sometime later, his mother died under the same circumstances. Afterward, Kenichi naturally became the company's president and inherited the vast majority of the family's fortune. Combining all the gathered information, the police suspected that Kenichi and Shiho were involved in multiple cases, with their motive being to inherit the family assets. Facing new accusations related to the deaths of his sister and parents, Kenichi coldly stated that now was not the time to discuss the matter, since everything had already been settled in the past. As for Shiho, she remained silent. 5 months after Yoshiki's death, the police returned to Kenichi and Shiho's home to conduct a second investigation. At that time, the summer weather was extremely hot, and their apartment appeared unkempt and stuffy. When the police asked where Yoshiki's ashes were kept, the couple pointed toward the balcony, which was cluttered with cardboard boxes and various household items. After half an hour of searching, the police finally found an urn among the mess. Kenichi had placed his parents' and sister's ashes in a small wooden cabinet, each with a nameplate. Yet he had placed his daughter's ashes in such a strange and careless location. During this investigation, the police seized Kenichi and Shiho's computers and phones. After forensic analysis, these devices revealed several critical traces of evidence. Investigators discovered records of Kenichi and Shiho purchasing antifreeze solution for cars. They had bought it multiple times between March and April of 2018. Additionally, Shiho's computer history showed repeated purchases of olanzapine. Since this was a prescription drug, she had acquired it through illegal online pharmacies. Furthermore, police found records on Shiho's computer of purchasing another drug containing the same compound that forensic doctors had detected in Yoshiki's body. Notably, since 2017, Kenichi had repeatedly messaged his sister, informing her that he would be sending her food. The police suspected that this was when he began executing his plan. Kenichi told the police that he was completely unaware of his wife's purchases. He only knew that she frequently ordered weight loss and blood sugar control medications online, but he had never noticed anything unusual. After reviewing the couple's phone chat history, the police found that they were both unhappy with Yoshiki. They complained that she cried all the time and was a nuisance to them. Shockingly, in one message to her husband, Shiho had written that she wished Yoshiki would disappear from this world. Even more disturbing was that Kenichi, in their conversation, agreed with this sentiment. The police were utterly horrified, unable to believe that parents could harbor such deep resentment toward their own child. Realizing that the police had grown increasingly suspicious and had gathered some evidence, Kenichi spent a large sum of money hiring a veteran lawyer. He then held a press conference, emphasizing that he had been the primary caretaker of their children all along. The police believed that Kenichi's actions were an attempt to shift blame onto his wife in case the truth came to light. On the 14th of December, 2024, 11 months after the incident, the police, having gathered sufficient evidence, arrested Shiho and Kenichi on charges related to Yoshiki's death. When taken to the police station, Shiho remained silent and tried every possible way to avoid entering. She complained of headaches, then back pain, and claimed she was too weak to walk. As a result, the police had to use a wheelchair to bring her inside. After the couple's arrest, a man claiming to be Kenichi's friend contacted the police. He said that his friend had many personal issues related to his marriage. Kenichi had once told this friend that Shiho was a dominant woman who manipulated him psychologically. In their daily life, if anything did not go her way, she would immediately become furious and even resort to physical violence against her husband. Kenichi's friend believed that Shiho had mental issues and frequently overreacted. Even regarding her concerns about her appearance, she blamed her husband, saying that giving birth to 3 children had made her unattractive. Kenichi was unhappy with his wife's personality and had considered divorce. However, every time he brought up the subject, Shiho would become enraged and threaten to take her own life. In addition to the information provided by Kenichi's friend, the police obtained an audio recording of a meeting between child welfare authorities and Kenichi at the time when the couple's 3 children were temporarily under the care of the Child Consultation Center. According to the recording, when child welfare staff asked Kenichi about his thoughts on divorce, he stated that he had calmed down and regretted his decisions. Other contents of the recording have not been fully disclosed by the police. However, many believe that Shiho and Kenichi deserve appropriate punishment for the prolonged harm they inflicted on their children, and are convinced that the couple was involved in Yoshiki's death. As of now, Shiho and Kenichi remain in custody for further investigation and await their trial. The legal consequences they will face will soon be revealed. What do you think about this case? Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing crime stories. Thank you, and see you in the next video.